Back when I was 17, my school went on a 5-day trip to Brussels and Belgium. I had several good friends with me, so it was set up to just be a good time exploring the city. Since we followed our school program, the activities we participated in were mostly obligatory. Don't get me wrong, some of them were a lot of fun, and everybody had a great time getting along with everybody. It's just that I've always liked doing things outside of schedules too. Do a few things we were not supposed to do for the thrill of the moment. As you can imagine, the days went by quickly, and by the end of day 4, everybody went to bed early since our bus ride home was going to be early, and it's a long drive back to Denmark where I come from. We'd have to be up at 5 a.m. I've always been up too late at night, so sleeping early and missing out on the city was boring to me. I talked to a couple of my friends, but they were all going to bed. I sat outside of the room I was sharing with 3 other guys from my school, and I opened up Tinder and started texting some girls I had matched with. Succeeding finally to get a hookup appointment a few kilometers away, I went outside with the key belonging to our room and the old building that was only for us boys at the school and some strangers. Adrenaline was pumping, and I thought it was kind of fun just exploring by myself. I followed the GPS location towards the girl's apartment, getting catcalled by old guys at bars for the first time and constantly on the lookout that I wasn't getting followed or anything. She had her own apartment in an area that I would come to see was very poor and sketchy. Big windows were lit up by neon lights for many streets, and male adult workers were posing in them, tapping with long nails and wild cross-dressing. Only a few guys walked past, everybody minding their own business. Being only 17 and alone, those streets freaked me out a lot, but I was also intrigued by having never seen anything like it. Finally arriving at the girl's apartment, I was pretty far away from the hotel that we were staying at. My meeting with the girl was great, we had fun. Nothing suspicious came from the encounter. So after that, I started finding my way back to the hotel through the GPS on my phone. It was September and cold outside, and now that my adventure had finished, I wasn't a fan of walking all this distance in what was now pitch black dirty streets. It started raining. The GPS was leading me a different route than I had come from, and I only wore a light jacket. People on the streets were all men grouped up near tight alleys, and there were no longer any bars or signs of the mid-city I was most familiar with. As I started to feel uneasy, my phone screen went black. I completely lost it. I didn't care about anybody hearing me. I just shouted every curse word and started beating my phone to get it to start again. It was dead. I looked around me to see if there was anything just slightly familiar, but there wasn't. Understanding that I had to take responsibility quickly for the situation I'd put myself in, I walked straight up to the first person who walked past me. They could sense that I was desperate, but also that I wasn't that old, so luckily this was someone who was willing to help. I told them a bit of my story and asked them about directions to the city center from which I would be able to find my way back to the building. The encounter helped me out. It was a guy around my dad's age. I don't remember much about how he looked, but he seemed friendly. Instead of just following me to the city center, he followed me all the way back to my hotel, even with the heavy rain beating us up. Still on the fence of him being a stranger, I made sure to keep a hand on my pocket with my keys and my phone the whole way. I thanked him finally, relieved that what I thought would be the worst experience of the night was over and done with. I locked myself into the building. They had automatic lock systems, which I thought was pretty safe. You get to lock off both the building and the rooms automatically, right? No chance of anybody following or getting inside unless they're staying there and have the keys, right? I went in and took a quick shower, got ready for the few hours of sleep I had left, and passed out in bed. When I woke up, a flashlight was pointed at my face. I squinted my eyes. A stranger's face was inches away. Maybe it was the shock from the guy being all up on me, but I didn't make a sound. My heart jumped out of my chest as I quickly sat up as far as I could in the bottom bunk I had been sleeping in. I asked in English who he was. All of my body was tensed up, but since my 3 roommates were sleeping and the man was not threatening me with anything, I sensed that it was a somewhat safe situation. He told me that he came from the lobby, that he was helping my friend Samuel with finding something he had lost. Confused and dizzy, I grabbed out for my phone and watch, which were laying right beside me on the bed. The time was around 4 a.m. I did have a friend called Samuel. He was known to be impulsive, so I didn't think much of it. The man backed away from my bedside and started looking inside our closet. I asked him what Samuel had lost. Why was he looking inside the closet of our room, which Samuel hadn't been in, at 4 in the morning? I sat up and turned the flashlight from my phone on and pointed it at the man. "His visa," he answered. "He can't find his visa." Another student came into our room. He started talking to the man about the visa. They were both looking for it. Being extremely tired, I assumed they all were. Samuel, him, the man. Even if the whole thing was strange, other guys from my school were out there searching for the visa with the man. My roommates started waking up, asking the same questions I had. I answered them as the man was scanning through our stuff, and I kinda made it sound as though I thought it was weird and maybe something was up. After a while though, heavily fatigued, I fell back asleep. The last thing I remember was me staring at the man as he was scanning through the backpack belonging to the guy across from me. I guess on a trip like this, you never know what's gonna happen to you. And by morning, when we were all awake and started talking, we learned the truth of what happened. 3 guys were missing their stuff: visa, laptop, and other personal items. They were gone, and the guy who claimed to come from the lobby, of course, did not. How he got in is a mystery, but apparently, he woke up the guys in the other rooms and made up the whole Samuel's visa is missing story after probably having stolen his visa and reading his name. He took advantage of all of us being tired and naive young guys in a foreign country. The reason he had been up in my face must have been because of my phone and watch laying there, and he was about to steal it. There were no cameras in the building as far as I knew. The police came pretty quickly, and our bus ride home got pushed back so Samuel and the others could talk to the police. We never got an update from what happened. Samuel and the others received new visas and so on back in Denmark. I didn't hear much about it after that, but to this day, I can't help myself but think if somehow what happened was my fault. Somebody could have followed me without me noticing, or maybe I didn't close the big main door properly for it to lock when I hurried up back inside. I was likely the last one to get inside before the man entered the building since it was so late, and I guess if he wasn't all up in my face because of my personal items, there's always the possibility that he pointed that flashlight directly in my face and none of the others because he recognized me.